we're going to rewrite this trigonometric expression, but we're going to rewrite it so that it's no longer in fraction form. As long as our answer does not have any fractions, we know that we're done. So that's when we know to stop, when we no longer have a fraction. Okay, and this one's going to take a little bit of work here. So when we have this expression here, 1 over 1 plus sine of x. Okay, so what are we supposed to do? Let me just show you a little something over here just to kind of give us some leeway of what I'm going to do so I just don't dive into it without some prereq knowledge. Okay, so we know that sine squared of x plus cosine squared of x equals 1. Okay, so if I solve for cosine squared of x, that means I'm going to have cosine squared of x equals 1 minus sine squared of x. Okay, so all I do is I just move my sine squared of x to the right side. Now, if I factor this, do you notice that this is the difference of squares? That this is the same thing as 1 squared, and this is the same thing as sine and then squared if I square it. So I can say that cosine squared of x is the same thing as 1 plus sine of x times 1 minus, I'm going to kind of run out of room here. Hold on, let me just do this. All right, let me try that again. Let me just move this over here. Oh, it's not working. Oh, now I got a cool blue box right there. All right, it's all right. So that means I'm going to say cosine squared of x is the same thing as 1 plus sine of x times 1 minus sine of x. Right? This is the difference of squares. So the reason why that I'm showing you this is that 1 minus sine of x is the same as 1 plus sine of x times 1 minus sine of x. Come over here. See how we have a 1 plus sine of x? So if I multiply this top and bottom by 1 minus sine of x, notice then that our denominator is going to give us a monomial term. And that's the whole purpose of this, is that we're trying to make the denominator just a monomial. Because if the denominator is a monomial, then you can get rid of fractions by just dividing by whatever that denominator is. Okay, so I did all this pre-work just to show you that that's why I'm going to multiply by 1 minus sine of x. Okay, I just didn't really pull out of thin air. Really, my mathematical thinking was, okay, I want to get my denominator to be a monomial, a single term. And so I kind of did a little bit of work with our Pythagorean identity. And so I know that since this was 1 plus sine of x, I'm going to multiply it then by 1 minus sine of x on top and bottom right there. Okay, and you may also realize that this is called the conjugate. You may have learned that in algebra 2 there. Okay, so let's see. The top just still remains 1 minus sine of x. Now the denominator, we know that if you multiply all this, right, because that's this, you're going to get cosine squared of x. Now that's very powerful. The reason why this is powerful because now, watch this, we can break this up into two fractions. We can say, oh, this is the same thing as 1 over cosine squared of x, and then minus sine over cosine squared of x. Sine over sine of x over cosine squared of x. Let's remember, we're trying to write this so it's no longer in fraction form. Okay, so once the fractions are gone, then we are done. Check it out. Look at 1 over cosine squared of x. Well, what's 1 over cosine? Well, that's the same thing as secant, right? So I'm going to replace this with secant squared of x. Oh, see, we just got rid of the fraction now. And now check this out. I can rewrite this as sine of x over cosine of x times 1 over cosine of x. Right? I mean, isn't this expression the same as sine of x over cosine of x, cosine squared of x? Because if I multiply the two together, I still have this. So now, continuing here, I can rewrite sine over cosine. Let me do this here. So we have secant squared of x. Sine over cosine is tangent, And 1 over cosine is going to be secant. Now, wait a minute. Whoa, there's no more fractions. Yeah. And we know that we're done now. So a bit of work there. It wasn't easy to say the least, but as you can see here, just by using our identity of our Pythagorean identity, we were able to multiply by the conjugate. We had a monomial denominator, which means that we split this up into 2 separate fractions. We're able to simplify the first fraction, and then take this monomial and break that up into a product, and then simplify those.